So you have medical insurance, dental insurance, life insurance, all those insurance insures for future risk, and title insurance insures for past risk. So we're in, from our perspective on the title side, things are a little bit slower. We have a lot of contracts that are actually canceling. Talking about HOA can put a lien on your home. So can anyone else. We've had, for instance, we've had someone just simply say they were upset with a neighbor and I'm going to put a lien on your house.
All right. Welcome to Jerome and Real Estate. I'm Jerome, your local realtor here in the Fountain and Colorado Springs area. And today I wanted to give some quick info on the basics of title and the title process. So what I did was I brought on a title representative, April Salladay. So April, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Well, I'm April Salladay. I'm with Legacy Title here in Colorado Springs. I've been with Legacy for going on 13 years this year. So same company too. That's very important.
Ooh, nice, nice. Yeah, I'm glad you could make it on. You and I have had a couple conversations. As most people know, if they're watching this channel, then they know that I'm a new realtor. I've been in less than a year, and it's people like you that I reach out to make me better. And every conversation I've had with you has done just that. So I'm thinking like, okay, well, why don't I just bring her onto my YouTube channel so people can learn directly? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love having subject matter experts on, so why not?
Right? Ooh, you're pushing buttons, experts. I don't know about that.
Well, hey, we'll let the people decide. We'll let the people decide. Right?
Understood.
Yeah. So I got a little bit of your background there, but I mean, how did you get into real estate overall, and then from that into title insurance?
Okay, so actually, I blame my husband. This industry is what they say incestual, I guess, not necessarily a great word, but it's everybody brings their friends and their family in. So my husband was actually in mortgages, and we had gotten married, and I moved straight here from California, and I didn't know anyone, and I was in the medical field and had some issues in the medical field that he goes, if you want to have kids, we might want to rethink what we're doing. And so he actually took me to an event that a title company was doing for his office. And the title company, the owner was there, and we chatted, and the rest is history. They offered me a job that evening, and I was like, okay, I've never done sales. I've never done this. And I was like, all right, I'll try it. And so I was with that company for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Went over to another company, was there for 3 years, and then stayed home for 6 years to have children. And now I've been with Legacy for 13.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yes, I blame my husband for getting me into this industry. And it's one of those industries, once you're in it, even if you try to leave, you get sucked right back in.
So what you're telling me is that I should try to get my wife in the industry, right? In the real estate industry.
Don't tell her I said that.
Hey, so I mean, what do you find the most rewarding about it? I mean, once you did dip your toe in, or you got dragged in, right? What made you stay? Like, why
That's a good question.
Why the pull?
With a background in the medical field, I was all about people, all about helping and caring for people. And honestly, this business is not any different. It's really just about getting to know people and what their struggles are in their business and helping them find a way around it. So it's the people.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely agree with you on that. For me, being an agent, it is 100% about helping people figure out what their next steps are in any real estate transaction, whatever it is.
Absolutely right.
You know what I mean? So yeah, definitely understand that. So let's delve into a little bit more about title as a whole, try to give people some of the basics. All right. So if you could, and very, very quickly, just wrap up what it is that the title company is supposed to be doing during a transaction, right? What's the main function of the title company?
Okay. So the main function, a lot of people don't understand why they need it because first of all, they usually say,
Exactly.
"Why do I need this title insurance? It's not there shouldn't be anything wrong." But the thing is there's so many things that can go wrong. So our job as the title insurance company is to ensure that when someone buys a property, that there's not what we call cloud on title, that it's a marketable property. So it can be sold and not find out down the line that they don't actually own it. So there's things that can happen, be recorded, fraud. Um, there's so many different things, liens on properties that show up and or people that show up and say, "Oh, I have, interest in this property," and they can try and take that property if we don't do our job correctly. So
Okay.
we are the search, and so we search the property to make sure that we know everything about it, and we make sure that anything that clouds title gets cleared up so that they have what we call clear title
Yeah.
at the end. So, I mean, that's the easiest way to explain it.
So as far as like, let's say you do a search on a particular property, you do find some inconsistencies, whatever it is, you find a cloud on this title,
Mhm.
right? Are is the title company the one that's going to go out and clear it up, or are you giving directions to the potential buyer or the current seller on what they need to do to clear this up?
So it's a little bit of both. So sometimes,
Okay.
majority of the time, it can be us. Like if there's, for instance, there's always a mortgage unless it's a cash or they've paid it off, right? So the mortgage always has to be paid off. So we're going to gather information from the seller, like their loan information, and find out what that payoff is so that we can get that taken care of before closing so that it doesn't stay on title. And then we'll record whatever needs to be recorded to get that off title.
Okay.
So, and then there's things like tax liens or say that there's a situation where there's a divorce. There's certain things that we're going to have the buy or the sellers get us information or help
Yeah.
us handle HOA information. That's always fun.
Yeah. The
If there's a
beloved HOAs. Yeah.
HOAs, if let's say there's an HOA lien and we can't seem to get a hold of the HOA, sometimes we will reach out to the seller to say, "Hey, we're having a hard time getting a hold of your HOA." It's sometimes easier for them to log in. Some of our HOAs, they can log in and get the information we need at a
Yeah.
cheaper cost and quicker.
Okay. Yeah, that
So
makes
it
sense.
just depends. There's certain things that majority of the things we're going to be able to do the research and get the information, but we do still have to get some of the details from the seller.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up the whole HOA thing because honestly, that's something I know people realize, HOA sometimes have a little bit of power over the neighborhood and all that. But I don't think people generally realize that the HOA can put a lien on your house. And that's what you were referring to.
Right.
Right? You can actually search for it and see, okay, well, does the HOA currently have a lien on this particular
Mhm.
property?
Yeah.
Right?
So if they're not, for instance, if the HOA has certain guidelines, like you have to ask permission to paint your house because you gotta go by the color of your house,
Yeah.
or maybe you have to get a new roof because of hail, but what color are you gonna put on the roof? So there's certain things, or maybe, for instance, in our neighborhood, we used to have the HOA didn't it said we weren't allowed to park on the street. So they had someone that would go in the middle of the night and, make sure I'm not even kidding you. They actually outsourced someone to make sure that if there was a car on the street after hours, that they would send a notice to our house to say, "Hey, it looks like you have a car on the street, not on your driveway." It's now since
Um,
we actually just got something to say, "Hey, we're not allowed to do that anymore, but if you can please just not park in the street because it just
yeah.
makes the neighborhood look nicer." Um, those can actually add up. If you don't, they can actually put a lien, so.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. So, what about the cost of the insurance, the title insurance? So, who is number one? Who's paying for it? And generally speaking, what does it cost?
Okay. So first, let's cover cost. So basically, it really just depends on the amount of the loan on the property. So the buyer comes in, maybe the list price is 599. and they need to insure the property for $599. It just depends on the amount of the property. So it's anywhere,
Right.
if it's, and I actually grabbed a rate sheet just so you can see. I don't know if that's very easily seen, but there, it breaks it down by
Mhm.
loan amount. So
Okay.
it really just depends on the amount of the loan.
So it's
Um,
not really by a certain percentage or anything like that?
I mean, I could probably calculate it and get you a percentage, but it's not how we usually identify.
Okay, got you.
Yeah.
All right. So each case is different, is
Yeah.
what we're getting
I
down
mean,
to.
it's a bit of a bracket, so it
Mhm.
incrementally goes up per loan amount. But yeah, it could be, if it's a lower end, it could be $800. If it's a higher end, it could be $2,000. It just
Yeah.
depends on the loan amount. As far as
Good.
who pays it, it depends on what's negotiated in the contract.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
if in this market, which is kind of turning a little bit, it was a seller's market, so the buyer was always paying. And then when you have a buyer's market, the buyer might say, I don't want to pay the title fees. You pay the title fees. So
Yeah.
it depends on where we're at in this market and how it's negotiated in the contract.
Yeah. So I mean, you said something very interesting there, that the market is turning. Ooh,
Mhm.
we got some breaking news from April Salladay.
I don't know about breaking, but yes, we are
Just real quick,
seeing.
yeah, I don't want to veer too much into this, but
Right.
we had a conversation a couple days ago over coffee, and we did chat a little bit about this, but if you could give a little bit of perspective on where you think the market is headed right now, like what do you see? It's just an opinion. I get it. I don't
I'll
want to
hold you
say
to
that,
it.
it's actual breaking news and it's from, but what have you been seeing?
So from our perspective on the title side, things are a little bit slower. We have a lot of contracts that are actually canceling. We'll get a contract and then
Huh.
that'll cancel. We're seeing the agents that I'm talking to, they're saying, they're dropping prices.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
when houses sit, people feel like they have a little bit more negotiation power, which is true, especially when they were flying off and they're like, no, I'll put this much down. I'll go over asking. I'll do this. I'll do that just to get a house. And now they're able to not have to do as much of that
Right.
on that end. And then, you know, the overall amount of time that things are sitting is
Yeah.
just a little bit longer. We still have, depending on that area of what the price range is, there's a price range that's actually just better and still going like gangbusters, but
Yeah.
it does seem to be a little bit more of a settle. Not a crash.
I
No crash.
mean, I definitely have to second that.
Yeah.
I see the same. Obviously, I see things sitting on the market longer. Um, sellers are in shock. Let's put it that way,
Yes.
right? Because for the past 2 to 3 years, things have been flying off the shelves, as it were, in one day. Sometimes, it didn't even hit market, and you already had offers. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, so now for them to see their properties waiting 3 weeks, a month, um, they're in shock, right? And I think that's why we're seeing, some of the price declensions, is because we're used to, or we got used to seeing things fly off the shelves, and we want
Right.
to, drop those prices to make sure that we can bring some attention back to the property. So, I mean, that's normal though,
Yes.
that's normal. So it's pretty much like you're saying, things are basically just balancing out or
Leveling
normalizing.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, not a crash.
Not a crash. Just a
Hopefully,
leveling
hopefully not
out,
yet.
correction. So
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So what about misconceptions that you've seen out there from, could be agents, could be from sellers and buyers? What are the biggest misconceptions you see out there about title insurance in general?
So I guess the biggest misconception, and I kind of hit on it a little bit in the beginning, is that title insurance isn't really needed because, you know, what do they really do? And so that misconception, people, they always ask, but I always tell you, you should always have title insurance, just because it's protection for you as a homeowner, to make sure that somebody doesn't come down the line. Now, everyone says, but insurance. Okay, so a little bit about it. So you have medical insurance, dental insurance, life insurance, all those insurance insures for future risk, and title insurance insures for past risk. So we're
Right.
ensuring that everything in the past has been cleared up, and that someone in the future doesn't come and say, I have rights to this property.
Okay.
So there's a misconception that they don't need it because, well, you cleared it all up. Why do we have to keep getting title insurance? Because things fall out, things get recorded, and we have to always be looking to see. And then there's the fraudsters who like to try and take properties without actually buying them. So there's always that. So you just
Yeah.
want to, there's always the protection. There's always someone out there trying to um, take something.
Yeah.
So we just want to make sure that that insurance policy is good for the life of that loan,
Right.
the life of that. So as long as you own it. So once you purchase it as an owner, you have an owner's policy, and it's good for the entire time.
And that's what I wanted to make sure and clarify, because I'm not sure if we mentioned it or not, but it's a one-time
Yes.
fee, right? This is not like normal insurance policies where it's like, oh, every month you got to pay something.
Yeah, it's a one-time fee. It's a
All right.
one-time fee, and the nice thing is that policy, like, let's say it's a $500,000 house. That policy, when you're paying that $1,200 or whatever it is, that policy is good for up to the amount of the loan. So basically, if something were to come up and you get something in the mail and says, I have rights to this property, I own this property, you can call the title company that you have that policy through, and they'll start looking into it. And that policy is what helps you, should it have to have any kind of legal representation, it's good for up to the amount of that policy.
Okay.
So it's
Awesome.
good to have that backing. That's why it's there.
Yeah. And speaking of backing, one of the things that comes up all the time in the contracts is OEC. And I wanted to make sure, obviously I've got a good handle on what it is, but I wanted to make sure that I get your take and explain to people exactly what OEC is and what it actually covers, right? So could you break that down for us?
So I actually made a couple calls just to make sure I was going to be explaining this correctly, because I always just say it's owner's extended coverage, it's extra protection. It is extra protection. So on your title commitment, so you have a title commitment and a title policy. In the beginning, we give you a title commitment. So in the beginning, we search the property. We tell you, okay, we're going to take care of these requirements have to be met by closing in order for us to close. And then we have these exceptions that we're going to take exception to. And in that exception area, there's 4 items that when you get the owner's extended coverage, it gives you protection for those top 4. So basically what it is extra protection against mechanics liens, construction, what was the other one? Survey. So it gives the owner that extra protection.
Yeah.
So if something were to come up. And it's
Interesting.
$55. It's between $65 and $75. So we're not talking breaking the bank,
Yeah.
and you're getting extra coverage.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I had I had heard at some point, and this is why I need subject matter experts to come on, you know what I mean, is because I had heard that it is something akin to gap insurance a little bit. Is there a piece of it that's sort of like that, where
kind of
there's like a time frame where it's like between the buyer and seller signing and then it actually going to close or something like that? Or
so that's how I have always heard it explained in that sense. And it is kind of like that, but at the same time, not. There's, like I said, if something were to fall out in that period, then you have that protection. It's going to help.
Okay,
I
okay.
got told that not to call it gap insurance,
But
gap,
it's yeah.
but yes.
Well, I just screwed that all up for you then.
No,
'Cause-
you're good. You're good. So it's just extra
yeah.
protection in case something were to fall out. So
All
yes.
right. Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad I asked that question then.
Yeah.
I'm glad I asked that because
And if you
one of
want,
the things I found is that we have, especially in our industry, we have certain things that are ingrained from
uh-huh,
the people that are teaching it to people like me, and it just keeps going all the
right.
way down forever. And it's just ingrained, and nobody knows how it got there. This
And
is one of those things.
it's one of those things where, it's like layman's terms. Everybody
Right.
knows gap insurance, right? They're like, "Oh, I know what gap insurance is." So that's an easy way to, I think, explain it, for a lot of people, but I was told don't. No.
Gotcha. Okay, good, good, good. So one of those other things, maybe this will be this could get a little bit more detailed as well, but escrow, right? And in other states, and not all of them, but in some other states, escrow, there's an escrow company, right? And they're usually separate from the title company. Here, the title and the escrow seem to be together all the time,
Mhm.
right? But they are two separate things, right? Can you break down like what the escrow duties are?
Escrow duties. Okay.
Yeah,
So title is going to be, the search aspect of it, correct? There we're searching the property, and the escrow part of it is your closing team, your escrow officer is going to take everything from you as the agent, our lender, and the title company, and they're basically going to take all that information, put it in all the documents for the day of close, and make sure everything matches for everyone. This is the easiest way to explain it without getting into too much detail
yeah.
for your consumers and your buyers and your sellers. They take all the information from all the different parties, put it together in all the package that we have for closing, and make sure that everything balances the way it's supposed to, and everybody's happy. So the lender has their requirements, you on the contract have your requirements, and they just make everything come together. That's their
Gotcha.
job. Bring all the
Okay.
information together and make sure it's correct for all parties.
Okay.
And they sit down at the table and they present all the documents. So, like, you have your closing fee and your title fee. The closing fee is for the actual, bringing all those aspects together. And then your title insurance obviously is for the insurance.
Yep. Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. Um, so as far as like during the title search
Mhm,
and the examination,
mhm.
what type of issues would you say come up most often?
HOA liens.
Our beloved
Actually, I
HOA.
would I would just say, I mean, I would say probably the most common, obviously, is any mortgages that are currently on the property is probably the most often, and that's not to be worried
Okay.
about, obviously.
Right.
But if it's issues on title, it's pretty common. So here, we'll go into this. So, um, we'll get things that come up on title, and people will say, "Oh, that's not mine. That's not me." And
Yep.
so we have a way that if it's a common name, like Smith, Johnson, uh, along those lines, there's a chance that when we pull the title, there is another Brian Smith out there.
Yep.
And we can't decipher if it's your Brian Smith or that Brian Smith unless we have them say, "Hey, that's not me. I don't have one of those liens. I don't have a tax lien. Not mine." Okay,
Yep.
great. So here we need to get a statement, uh, a document signed with, and they give us information like it'll ask questions like the last 3 homes, places you've lived, or your social security number, and then they fill it out, and when we do our search, we put it in, and it can negate some of those things because we have the ability to see, that's not his social, that he's never lived at that address, and
Yeah.
we can eliminate those things and get them cleared off title for them. Um, then so that's probably one of the easiest things that we can correct. And then of course there's, the liens. mechanics liens or,
Mhm.
and a lot of people I don't think realize, same thing with the HOA that we were talking about. HOA can put a lien on your home. So can anyone else. Someone
Ah,
we've had, for instance, we've had someone just simply say they were upset with a neighbor and I'm going to put a lien on your house. And it doesn't even have to be a valid lien. It just they can just put it on there and we have to get it cleared before closing.
so how do you get something like that cleared if you've got like a backstabbing neighbor
You
that's
jump through hoops. Yeah, it's a process, but you can do it. But there's like, for instance, if you get a roof on your house and let's say you felt like the roofer didn't do a good job
Yeah,
and so you were upset and you didn't pay them the full amount, they may put a lien on your house
right.
to get that because you have to clear that up before you can close on your house. So you'll have to pay it eventually if they put the lien on your house.
Man,
So
interesting.
one thing that some of your uh, like I said, roofer, electrician. So let's say you have air conditioning unit and you need that fixed, or you have a water heater you have to put in. They can actually put a lien on the property, and some will put a lien on your property, as they're working on it,
Yeah,
so that if they don't get paid, it's on the property.
it's already there. Yeah. Wow.
So, and it's just, and honestly, it's just a way for them to make sure that they get paid because unfortunately we have people out there that are looking for ways to get around things. And
Yeah.
if they go and turn and sell the house a month later and that's still not paid,
Okay.
this is a coverage for them. So, I mean, there's different things that I think consumers don't realize can get put on a property. So
Quite a bit. Yeah.
being aware of what's on your property is probably a good idea.
Yeah. So in the beginning of this, well, at the beginning of this answer to the question, you started mentioning things like, double names or similar names,
Mhm.
and being able to find out whether this John Smith is the same as this John Smith that actually has a lien or
Right.
whatever, right? Um, it leads me perfectly into this next question, right?
I think I'm good at this.
Um, so, got to get into it because a lot of people think that it is the future and it is already starting and it has kind of trickled into the housing industry some. So blockchain technology,
Mhm.
right? A lot of people feel that some of this data, well, most or all of this data being recorded on the blockchain would make this process much faster, cheaper, and then it would eliminate quite a bit of the cumbersome things that you could go through with trying to search and clear up title issues, the clouds on properties.
Right.
Right. I wanted to see if, what's your take on, maybe where blockchain is now relative to the real estate industry and where it's going, where it could go. What's your take on it?
So when you brought that up the other day when we chatted, I read the articles that you had sent me and I actually talked to my boss and she actually reached out to some of our underwriters and our attorneys and
Hmm.
just to have a good idea of where the title side is on that. And yes, there are people who have bought houses through crypto, right? And then
Yeah.
it becomes my understanding is then becomes part of that first block in the chain.
Okay.
And there's that block has to fill up with information and then they get another block and another block and another block. And that's how you create that chain. I think that's what it is. That's my basic understanding. Um, and it sounds like it's supposed to, that first block in the chain is where you would start the process of this. It would become solid. No one could touch it. No one could change it. No one could do anything to that first block. Am I getting that correct?
Um,
Or understanding?
the, so I want to say that it's a little bit more complicated than that.
I'm definitely
So that, so
bringing
so
not an expert in this topic, just saying.
yeah, I mean, it's the way that it works. What you're describing is a ledger, right? And
Right.
that is what the blockchain is. It's basically a ledger system,
Mhm.
and yes, there are blocks to the data is what you can visualize it as,
Right,
right? So it's like a block. Um, but it doesn't matter if it's like, okay, one home sold, so this is a block. That's not really
right,
how it goes. It's just data in general, right? So
right,
whatever data that you're storing, it doesn't have to be like an actual sold home or something. It just
right,
needs to be data. And then the blocks are distributed
right,
um, throughout basically throughout the internet publicly, and that's one of the ways, as far as I can explain it, that's one of the ways that it is seen as being more beneficial than a
right,
centralized system, is because all these blocks are out there on an open system
mhm,
that the public can then put together, and
right,
they're all on this huge ledger out on the internet that everybody can get to. So it's no longer this centralized system of data that is a one, I guess you would call it like a it's like a one weak point if it's all centralized, because you
right,
have to, you've got to call up one person and that person has to search it. Whereas if it's on the blockchain out on in the public dispersed, everybody sees it, everybody knows it, everybody tracks it, everybody has that same ledger,
right,
and it's publicly available. You know
right.
what I mean? So that's kind of where,
So when I talked to Ashley reached out to me after she talked to our attorneys, and she basically said that yes, it's a part, something should be, it will be happening in the future, I'm sure. But at this point, underwriters aren't comfortable insuring
yeah,
homes this this way yet. They're not
yeah,
that there's just so much still to be learned. Um, so if the insurance side of it, the search side of it, it sounds like it will be easier. Um, but at the same time, it's just not there yet. Not
yeah,
100%. Not for them, not for our underwriters and the ones that are insuring the properties.
yeah,
They're not comfortable. They're not comfortable with how the information is put in. So
yeah.
they're not, and that's, I mean, that's just the people that are insuring the property. So
And
it's
that
got,
makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense that it is going to take a little bit, because it would require like a complete upheaval of what we
right.
have right now.
Yeah.
I can't see, I can't see it moving that quickly,
Right.
because somebody's got to say, okay, sure, in this particular, let's say it's El Paso County, right? We would have to say, well, El Paso County is transitioning to using the blockchain for all title
Right.
recording. You know what I mean? Like all the deeds, all title insurance would have to be recorded on the blockchain from now
Right.
on. But then you would have to go back and grab everything in the past and put them on the
Yeah.
blockchain. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it would be like a massive um, move.
Right. And so when I was talking to her, I pulled up my notes from when I was with her. So basically the issue is it's what she said was it sounds like it's more of like a conveyance of property. So there's not they're just transferring it through
Yeah.
is what it sounds like versus actually they're selling it, but it's a transfer of the property, conveying it, not doing the title insurance at this point. So
Mhm.
that's the issue I think that our underwriters is what, so what I said was it says blockchain is out there and yes, people are buying homes with cryptocurrency, but it is more of a conveyance of the property than anything else, meaning that they are just transferring title without a title search and a title policy.
Right. Okay.
So that's where,
So okay.
you
So
know,
in respect to the ones that have already been done, like if they were bought using cryptocurrency, then what you're saying is the properties were basically just transferred over
yeah,
deed wise.
right.
Okay, and there was no search. Nothing was actually on, as far as the title or the deed or anything. Nothing was actually on the
There was
blockchain yet.
there's no title. There's no new title. They're just
Gotcha.
conveying it. So it's the
Yeah.
old title. The seller has the title insurance. They're conveying the property to this person,
Hmm.
no insurance, no
Yeah.
coverage, no search to make sure that it's free and clear, not assuming someone else's liens.
Yeah.
So that's the struggle right now. And that's also because I think title companies, the underwriters aren't comfortable insuring that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And try
Yeah.
very
That
hard not to pay
we've
money out. Come on.
definitely got a ways to go.
Yes.
Definitely got a ways to go on that.
Not going to
But
say
yeah,
it's never going to happen. It'll probably
it's
happen at some point,
hmm
but they got to get a few kinks in
yeah.
the armor fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean that's the way it is with pretty much any big technology that seeks to, change the game.
Mhm.
There'll be a lot of kinks, there's gonna be a lot of pushback.
I
And
mean,
that's
it
just the way
sounds
it is.
amazing.
Yeah. I know, right? Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. So I think that pretty much, does it for the questions that I
Hopefully,
had.
hopefully I haven't thoroughly confused everyone.
That's all good. All good. I think what I would like to do is just, let you either, push out some key points that you think either agents or consumers out there would like to know about, or, just briefly summarize some of the big topics that you would want to leave us with.
I mean, I think you're covering a lot of great information here. I was telling my boss this last night when I was talking to her about this. I said, I just need you to give it to me in layman's terms, because if I'm going to be putting this out here, I don't want to put it out for people who are on the buy side, the sell side, if I give a bunch of technical terms that we use every day that we understand, you understand, consumers will be like, what's OEC? Owner's extended coverage. What's an O&E? Owners and encumbrances. So we didn't cover O&Es, but O&Es are important on the agent side. Definitely taking the time to pull those ahead of time, because like I said, owners don't always know that there's a lien on the property, because it's not like somebody comes and goes, I'm putting a lien on your property. They just do it. And then you go to sell and you're like, I don't have a lien. And then they find out, oh, they do have a lien. And so sometimes, or I should say, whenever you as an agent, you're going to talk to somebody about listing their home, it's important for you to take the time to do what we call an owner's and encumbrance report.
Yep.
It's $5, and we can tell you who's of record, which is hugely important, because it's not fun when we walk into a closing, a closer walks in and is like, oh, where's Mr. Buyer? Or sorry, Mr. Seller. Well, Mr. Seller passed away. Oh,
Yeah.
well, they didn't record the deed of the death certificate. How would we know? The only
Yeah.
way we would know is if you got an owner's or an O&E. We searched it. You show Mr. and Mrs. Seller, but when you go to the listing appointment and you only talk to Mrs., you can say,
Yeah.
where's Mr.? And she says, well, he passed away. Okay. Do you have a copy of the death certificate? Have you recorded it? Because we don't show
Right.
the death certificate. And that makes you look like you're ahead of the game. You're on top of it. You know what's going on. Where if we get to the closing table, it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's no fun walking into a room when you're expecting two people and you find, and maybe it was recent. And then we've had people where it was recent and they just start crying, and it's not
Man.
a good situation. So we
Ouch.
just like to cover those things. They happen. We can't identify all of them, but just a simple $5 O&E helps
Yeah.
you identify who's on title, identify what liens are on title, and help them get ahead of the game so
Yeah.
that the process is just smoother.
And I got to throw it out there. Hey, I'm one of the good ones. And it's because of legacy, because you guys make it really easy. I just go to your website and I order it right from the website.
Mhm.
And then, someone contacts me or emails it out to me and I see it all right there.
Right.
So,
Good
yep.
to know.
I've
It's good.
been doing it.
Good. Good job.
All
So,
right. What else do you got?
I think that covers quite a bit, honestly.
Mhm.
If you want, we can definitely get into more detail on the owner's extended coverage another time so that we can really identify that. And I'll bring in the actual expert on that. owner's extended coverage, again, $65, $75 for
Yeah.
extra protection.
Hmm. Why not? Right?
Why not?
Why not?
It should just
One-time
be one of
fee.
those, yeah, it should just be one of those things that it should always just be checked in
Yep.
my mind.
Okay.
It's like having accident insurance, right? You have medical, but then if you have accident insurance, you get
Hmm.
extra. I know because my family's accident prone.
Uh, so I do have one last little segment. I don't know if you've seen any of the other videos I put out, but I started doing this little thing where I've got 3 quick questions at the end,
Okay.
right? And the whole thing of it is you're supposed to go fast.
Oh
So
no.
supposed to,
Okay.
you're supposed to answer as soon as it's the top of the mind type of
Okay.
answer. All right. So I think I already know your answer for the first one. Um, Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Yeah, I got that one down. All right. So is it going to be hard liquor or mixed drinks? Ooh, look at that. Look at
Ooh.
the consideration is quite
I'm gonna say mixed drinks.
mixed
But
drinks, huh?
I instantly went to old fashions, so it's a little bit
Yeah,
mixed drink, but it is hard liquor. So that's why I was like,
yeah. I don't normally do mixed drinks, but I tell you what, old fashions, yeah, that'll cut it. That'll
that'll
cut
cut
it.
it.
And then the last one, muffins or cupcakes?
Muffins.
Yeah, I don't. Have I had anybody answer cupcakes yet? I can't remember, but it's got to be muffins, right? I mean, there's no.
I don't know. I'm not a big icing fan, so
Yeah, exactly.
cupcakes
That's
are
what it
like,
is.
that's not even an
Yep.
option.
Same thing with me. But I definitely appreciate you coming on and clearing up and clarifying some of these things that we have. Like I said in the beginning, I love bringing on actual people that are experts in their particular field in this wide-ranging real estate industry. We all work together and we all have to get through the transaction together. But
Right.
I don't think a lot of sellers and buyers realize just how specialized some of the certain areas are and
Yeah.
all of the things that you need to do, especially for title, because really they have maybe 1 to 2 interactions with title through the entire transaction, and they think that that's it.
Right.
It's very surface level, but they don't get to understand
Mhm.
some of the work in the background that title's doing.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
encourage any agent to come sit with a closer for a day. End of month would be great.
I might have to do that. I might have to do
It's an
that.
interesting time. Actually, it might make them mind their P's and Q's a little bit better if you're
Yeah.
back,
All right.
but it's
Well, I
stressful.
definitely appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having
Um,
me.
yes, yes. And then, we may be able to choose a more specific topic and drill down on that and do another video. That'd be kind of cool
It would be.
for the people to see. So I give you the chance to put contact information out there just in case somebody wants to maybe ask further questions or something like that. So please, give if you'd like people to reach out to you for questions, or if they're agents and they need to figure something out,
Yeah.
how can they get a hold of you?
Best way to probably get a hold of me is on my cell phone, 719-351-5455. I can take text or call. You can leave a voicemail. I try to answer majority of the time as long as I'm not in a meeting with someone. And then obviously email, and it's a little long, but it's A Salladay, so ASALLADAY at legacytitle-llc.com. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna also put that contact information in the description of this video. And as always, if you've been watching and you do appreciate some of the info and tidbits that we put out, This happens weekly for me, and I'll bring on, different representatives from different organizations, different pieces of the real estate industry or finance. Give this video a like if you dig it, and give me a subscribe, and you'll see more every single week. So I appreciate it.